Oh, that's the fancy place. In fact, my son's coming over to Bali in January.
Okay.
With his mates to have a party, so he might need your services. So,
At Twins, yeah.
Yeah.
he gets into trouble.
Tomorrow, I'm Gareth today on representative.
That's right. I'm a legal representative for Millet and we're doing boardroom sessions. So maybe we could do this session in Bali, Andy.
Yeah.
How would that be?
I love it. Love it. I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, so let's get on with the show.
All right, nice to meet you. All right, now we are recording this session, so just a bit of a reiteration, just as people jump on, because only 2 minutes past. As I say, in Bob, we like to start on time, finish on time, because we respect your time. So Gareth is a long-term collaborator of mine. We've been entrepreneur buddies for a long time, and being a lawyer and expert in IP law, I've used him for all of my services, and I've recommended him for many years. He owes me at least one more beer, I think, when you come back to Melbourne. At least one. Maybe in Melbourne prices, maybe a light beer. And so when we decided to trial this BYOB program webinar, so this is essentially a new service we're offering for our members. So we've got a lot of free members, and they will have queries regarding certain elements of running a business. And so we thought we'll do these education sessions. So the role is to have someone come in and present on a topic of interest to general business. It doesn't mean you need a lawyer right now, but it's good information to have, and you may have an immediate need. Now, from here, we're going to offer a boardroom session, which is more of a paid workshop, and that includes having some one-on-one time with the guest speaker, and also there's some bonuses that Gareth's going to throw in. Don't want to allude too much to his value offering, but essentially it's IP, exactly, your IP, and it's a trial format to see whether this is valuable for people. Being a webinar, we always record them, and a lot of people actually watch we get more people watching the recordings of our webinars that actually attend, because it's time and place. And then what we do is for those people who want to, there you go, then if people want to take up the offer for the smaller session, then people come through and we run that as a way to provide value for not just the community, but for the speaker. So think about in your situation, if you wanted to run one of these yourself, you would then contact us and we would schedule in. We're going to run them once a month. We've already got the first 3 months allocated, and then all we need to know is what you want to talk about, the value for the audience, and then we'll run them, and this will be a trial for 6 months, and then we'll do some test measure. So without further ado, that's my introduction. I'd like to hand over to Gareth, who can get his slides up and running, if you don't mind, umpire. And then he'll take you through his presentation on IP law, and then we'll have a chat at the end about next steps. That sound good to you, Gareth?
Sounds great to me, Andy, and thank you so much for the warm welcome. It's great to be on the call here today with all these aspiring entrepreneurs, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys as to what you're creating, because at the end of the day and the start of it, we're all here sharing with a shared purpose of creating and building IP. Now, I'd like to hear from you guys, Aldo, Pearly, John, Carol, Joe, Mel, and Matt. What business is your name? What's in a name is everything in intellectual property and trademarking in particular. So I'd like to hear from you guys. Maybe we could just have a quick chat. Aldo, what business are you running, and what is the name of your business?
I've set up a new compliance-based SaaS business for the freight industry, and I've got a name. I haven't registered it yet. I've purposely not registered it.
What's the name?
Secret.
So Track Check.
Okay, great, fantastic. Sounds like a really strong start for a brand and a name. So that's awesome. Pearly, what about yourself?
Thank you. I'm actually one of the marketing coordinators at Shows the Star, but I do have my own business as well. So me and my partner are working together, and we trying to help the businesses and individuals to show up with professionalism. through
Beautiful.
clothing, through branded merchandise, t-shirt, polos, sweatshirts, etc.
Wonderful. And have you got a name in mind?
Yeah, we do. It's called Polon Supply, and we already trademarked. It's actually not trademark. We actually register our business, but the logo is not trademarked yet.
Great. We're going to cover that today. And as Andy just put up, I think it was a social star one. At the end of the day, your brand is your identity, and it is the flag on your ship. And it does serve, as Andy has gone down the pathway of trying to register, or at least applying to register it as a trademark. We'll cover that in today's session. John, seize your value. That is one of your trademarks, as I understand it, good sir. Would you like to elaborate anything on the process or any other businesses that you're working on and a name you'd like to share?
Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Leading loud, clear.
Yeah, so I've got my longest running business is Increasing Returns.
Yes.
And I think you trademarked that some time ago for me. That's where I help co-pilot founders go down their track of their first fundraise and all the moving parts that go with that. And then being investable, and then seize your value is actually morphed into being investable. So I'm dealing with the personal, the human aspects of entrepreneurship, and I'm just starting to publish on that on Substack and LinkedIn a lot more. So so being investable, probably, I think we tried to trademark it, but we couldn't do it because of the word investable was in there. Something like that, didn't we?
Yeah, but we got to seize your value over the line.
We did get seize your value. We did. We did.
Because it was unique. And interestingly, the good values that Andy espouses to with brand, making a great brand, is also the same in trademark protection. In John's case, seize your value was seen as distinct. And we're going to cover that in today's session. So thank you, John. Great to have you here. Carol, have you got a business and a name?
Well, I'm a professional speaker, and I have just been using my own name. I have never trademarked my logo, but I'm looking at changing the name of the business to Life Without Limits.
Fantastic.
And in devising a logo for that.
Yeah, Lifeline Limits. We'll cover that in a bit like John. Those are going to be pretty broad terms, but we will cover this today, and this is a great opportunity for you to test your name. We're actually going to search for your trademark goal as part of today's session today. So, Joe, so good timing, Carol. Joe, have you got a name and a business that you're in, a business and a name that you have in mind?
There's one of our interns, and looks like he's on mute.
Okay.
So is he here to support one of our team?
We're here to support. Yeah, that's all good.
No, Matt?
No worries. Well, we've got Mel and Matt and Rosalind. Just really quickly, a couple of words from each of you before we get started, because I want to make sure this is really practical and an application of what you're going to learn about protecting your most visible asset, your brand. Mel?
Hi there. Well, I've got a mix between a personal brand, but like Carol, professional speaker. So my surname is too hard for people to remember. So I've gone with Mel B, tapping into the Spice Girl phenomenon. Mel B with 2 L's, so I don't clash with the Mel Brown. And then I have my business, which is its own asset of quantum coaching and healing.
Great. Okay, good. We're going to test out, the brand, the distinctiveness characteristics of those today, and hopefully so you walk away with some good information on how you can even pivot what you're creating into a distinctive name so it can be capable of trademarking. Matt and Rosalind, and then we'll get started because others are joining, just so everyone feels included.
Hey Gareth. So yeah, same kind of thing as the other two just previously, Carol and Mel. So I run a electronic music coaching business, electronic music production coaching, currently just under my own name, so Matt Tinkler Music, but looking to expand that into something that's, I guess, beyond my personal brand, and looking at calling that Aspect Music Academy. And then,
Beautiful.
so this session I should hope be pretty useful.
Fantastic.
For looking at that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I've seen you spoke at one of Andy's events, and I love what you're doing, where you're going with your creative content business. And by the way, feel free to drop your name into the chat, because in this recording, we may all be able to go back to it in the search for the trademark gold today. Rosalind, finally, as we get started, name and your business that you may be thinking of registering as a trademark.
Hi, Gareth. I worked backwards and found I made up a name so that it was available on the, for a website to register. Haven't trademarked it as yet, but it's Anakai. So it's a combination of some Japanese words that are meaningful to my advisory business.
Yeah.
So the foundation or the landing name is Anakai, and it could be Anakai Advisory, it could be Anakai Health, it could be Anakai Collective, whatever all of the assets that I build into the ecosystem. So that's my thinking at the moment, but I haven't actively trademarked it yet.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's why today's session is here. If you're thinking of trademarking, or if you're thinking of creating a product or a service as entrepreneurs, your brand is your flagship, and it pays to actually do this work now as you're creating your brand, to ensure that you have a mark of distinction, something that is capable of protecting from all others.
So similar to the others, it's starting as a personal brand, but it could evolve into an asset that could be sold in the future. Yeah.
And we will cover how personal brands can be created and protected, like the e-Tractionist, which is one of Andy's. So on that note, let us now focus on what is in a name, as William Shakespeare finally once said. And indeed, it means everything. It is the flag on your ship, and it is the way that people recognize you from all others in the marketplace. But in order to understand that, let's go on, take this journey. And there's no better place to start than with Andrew Ford. Next slide, please. So what's in a name? Protecting your brand. And here he is. In short, just do it. Nike registered their valuable trademark years and years ago, and it's fair to say that it is worth multi-million dollars. Andy, in his over 15 years of work as a social star, began with Social Star and extended out his brand reach with Campus Life and now BYOB. And pretty much on every stage of Andy's journey, we have consulted on what is capable of protection and some challenges he's faced, which I think we can get into in questions and answers. But in short, it's worth following this process, because if you're building something of value, which Andy has over 15 years, then it is worthy of your protection. So let's move along. Next slide, please. So let's just continue this journey right now with an understanding, next slide, of the role of intellectual property in all of this. Next. Intellectual property is important to understand in the context of not only protecting your brand in business, but also your ideas. Next. And intellectual property basically has been defined by the World Intellectual Property Organization as an area of law which enables people to earn recognition or financial benefit from what they invent or create. The legal definition, it is a product of the mind or intellect. And therefore, it is the commoditization, it is the bringing about into reality of your ideas. And the brand and your branding, your marketing is often the first touchstone. It tells a story and delves deeper into what your identity is. And therefore, to do the work to actually bring your idea into existence, which often starts with its identity or its name, you should be considering trademarking at this early point and this early stage. But what is a trademark? Let's have a look next as we see this in the context of identity and what is worthy of protecting. There's one other right that I can mention today, and it is copyright. But because this is a short and sweet session, we're just going to focus on trademarks. But just so you know, intellectual property is a product of the mind and intellect, and it can be registered and brought and be created as an asset for your business. That is a trademark. Your copyright is often in the marketing prose that you may create, you know, that is part of your business. It's in your blueprints, it's in your designs, it's in your books that you may publish. But the two rights and the fundamental one we're going to consider today is trademark. Let's talk more about protecting your brand. Next slide. Just the next one, as we go along. Well, copyright is identity. Trademarks is the way that we actually protect the valuable brand and branding of your business. Next one, please. Let's go to trademarks. So, trademarks. Who can tell me who this individual is?
Richard Branson.
Exactly. Now, he is a world-famous, world-class entrepreneur, and he is famous for the trademark Virgin. In fact, he understood his brand has been around for at least 5 decades, and it has been such a powerful trademark that it has enabled him to leverage into new industries. Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Airlines, Virgin Cola, all of these businesses, some of which he pursued and others he didn't, but were all made possible not only through the power of his ideas, but through the power of his brand. In Australia alone, Virgin owns 236 trademarks, just in Australia. And that is testimony to the power and value of his brand. So how can we as entrepreneurs leverage this information for our own good? Next slide. It begins by understanding what a trademark is. Basically, a trademark is a name, designation, or logo that is used to identify a brand and a product and services. In fact, that is fairly similar to what a brand is as well. It is a mark of distinction that serves to distinguish you from all others in the marketplace. Let's move along. So it's protected under the Trademarks Act. Basically, it's a sign used in business to indicate that goods or services come from a particular trade or service provider. Whether your C is your value as part of increasing returns, as John Perry said, or you're or social star in Andrew's sense, these are the names that people come to recognize you in the industry. But it's more than just a name. It can be a phrase, a word, a letter, name, signature, and it often incorporates colors, pictures. It's modern day mythology. It's basically how we protect our mark of significance. In fact, it can cover such detail as color. Cadbury, for example, the infamous purple of Cadbury wrappers are protected in both Australia and the United Kingdom and have gone into battle. Basically, a person who owns a trademark in Australia can stop other people using that same or similar trademark in the Australian marketplace. So it serves you to protect it. But this is actually a growth exercise, and it's an asset of your business, which over many years can be valued if you buy or if you trade under your business, but also if you sell your business. And that is just one of many reasons to trademark your marketing and actually protect the valuable marketing efforts. So the work that Momina and Andrew and the rest of the team do for and on behalf of businesses can be protected under a trademark if that brand and logo is used. So it's also protecting your investment in your marketing activities. And that simply makes dollars and cents. As we move along, we're going to look at a couple of examples. And for all of those on the call, I promised you also to do some practical. So we're going to search for your trademark treasure today on this call. And the way that we can all do that is through a simple and free tool that is available through IP Australia. So let's just jump on that next one. And Norman, I might ask you to actually do help us do some of the practical part of these examples. So on that link is actually a link to IP Australia's ATMOSS trademark search service. This is a really easy way you can actually start. And so how would we like to start? Do you want to read out one of the examples in the comments? Somebody that had some questions about their name. I know that who'd like to start? I just can't see the comments here.
Yeah, I'll go. It's Carol.
Yeah.
Life
Great, Carol.
life without limits.
Okay, before we start and do life without limits, I just want to give you an example of how this operates, right? Let's look at the Virgin trademark first, because we just mentioned it, just to get an idea of how this works, right? So on a simple search, Virgin, we'll put the URL map into the notes. And as you can see, did you put Prestige or Virgin?
Virgin.
It's okay. Basically, how this works is that it'll come up with a number of results. It'll show you automatically whether there are registered or pending trademarks, and will give you an indication of whether you can even begin to think about trademarking your name. So let's go with life without limits, because it's going to actually give us some indication if Carol can name her business under it. And I'm going to get into some of the nuances of trademark law to see if that's even possible, given some of the rules around that under the Trademarks Act. But life without limits, a cursory search using the IP Australia website. By the way, that it's ipaustralia.gov.au. And as you can see, Carol, your genius idea has already been considered by an entrepreneur who has registered it. I'm assuming that is. It is an entrepreneur. Let's have a look though. As you can see, there's a number of registrations that are already there. Life without limits, a life without limiting surveying. And if we kind of jump into one of those, maybe there's the top one there. Actually, try the one number 5, if you like, because I want to show you that there is a registered word marks. But as you can see here, there's also a registered logo mark as well. That one, the logo mark, has actually been removed. But this gives you an example of what a registered trademark will look like on a public register of your name. So in this case, we've got life without limits with a certain tagline, advanced support group. So this includes this logo and the unique styling. It includes the characters, and all of those combination of elements are actually protected under the Trademarks Act. As you can see, this was actually registered in 2012. It was filed. It takes 7.5 months to actually register a trademark. It's not an overnight activity. It does take time. However, in this case, the reason what was removed is it wasn't renewed. So for this business, I'm assuming that this is a coaching style business, and we know that it's actually healthcare services, because there's actually 45 classes of products and services that you can register your trademark under. And in this case, it was in the provision of healthcare services. So what this data is useful for, Carol, is that actually in this branding exercise that you may undertake with Social Star or with BYOB, is that you need to think about these at this stage before you commence engagement with your marketing professional. The reason being, in my humble opinion also, as your friendly IP advisor and consultant, is that it pays you to do this work now, so that then when you're engaging your marketing specialist, they can actually come up with something that is more distinctive for you. Easy solutions in the trademarking process, as we are seeing here with Life Without Limits, which was already a registered trademark. It does not mean that you cannot have that name. It simply means that you can get creative about creating that brand of distinction. So what this business has done is that they have actually created a tagline. Just do it. Nike is famous not only for their brand, but their tagline. And in this case, Life Without Limits Advanced Support Group, it was enough to create a brand, a badge of origin capable of distinguishing from all others under the Trademarks Act, and it was able to go through. Okay. Any questions on that, Carol?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay.
Loz
So
has a question, Gareth.
yes, go for it, Andy.
I've just got a question, Gareth, around
sorry,
the
Rob.
difference
Yeah.
between. I've actually got a live example of where I've got another trademark for another business, and I contested someone else's trademark. So I've just searched for that, and I've realised that I've trademarked the name within the same category. But what happens when you've had a logo design to match your name? Are you trademarking the name and the category in which you're operating? So this one, in this case, it was swimwear.
Yep.
Or am I trademarking my name and the logo? Because logos change over time. So could you distinguish between what it is that you actually need to trademark? The design of the logo and the name, or just the name itself?
Sure, Rosalind, great question. Basically, a trademark will protect the combination of words, images, colours, the name itself. There's two steps to this. Basically, you can register the words alone, okay? And if you are building a big business or want to own that categorically, like in John's case with Seize Your Value, he is the only one that can use that name in his coaching practice or in his consultation in Australia, full stop. He can use it in books, he could use it for the beginning, for a title for a book, an ebook, any of his products and services. However, in your case, Rosalind, I actually advise, in this case, to register all three, the logo, the name, and a possible tagline. It doesn't matter if you intend to use it, in my opinion, at this stage. The reason I say that is that because the Trademarks Act is advocating for you to actually protect, is a combination of the words, images, to create a distinct badge of origin, those common elements of the logo, the tagline, and the name together will be a very powerful registration when you go through the process of registering it with Trademark IP Australia. And the reason I say that is that it's not an overnight success story. It does take 7.5 months. There are three main steps to that process. The first is the trademark examiner will actually examine the register. They will see if your name is capable of distinction. Now, Carol, on your name, I would have been concerned, but I'm now not so concerned now that we've actually done the research. But if a name is in what's called the common vernacular, if it's a name in the course of business and trade, if it is a name that is a location, for example, Champagne, anyone? At the end of the day, Champagne can't be could not be registered in Australia and had to pivot to sparkling wine in Australia because it was a geographic region. So in short, I'm basically suggesting you do a combination of all those three rules on. But let's do some work for you here and search for your trademark gold. Let's have a look, if you want to share on the call, what that name could be.
My business name was Anakai. It's not in there, but my other business was called, it was called Aqua Cove, and there was another swimwear label that had spelt aqua differently, and I contested their registration on it.
As you should. Well, let's just have a quick look at Aqua Cove because I think it will demonstrate first.
Actually, if you type in the Aqua brand, ACQUA, you'll see an example, Aqua brand, RAND. See if that comes up.
Okay,
that's not mine, but you can see that the applicant down the bottom, you can see that it's,
Let's stay on this because this is a really good example. Aqua on its own would be very difficult to register. The trademark register would probably say Aqua on its name and saying you cannot own exclusively that name. However, a clever marketer has put these elements together, great strong branding, distinctive elements in the font, added the and brand, and look what they had here. They had a 10-year registration here. Or they have a 10-year registration which is renewed at 2034, and they've got 20 years protection of that. So this is good practice. This is a good indication of good practice because that name alone, Aqua, too general, add some elements, branding elements, as well as, the distinctiveness around the and brand, and you've got then a possibility. So Carol, it's not to say, as you saw with coaching, that you couldn't get that name, but adding, I think it was you, Rosalind, who suggested personal branding, is actually a really easy way you can make a name more distinctive by putting your own name on it.
Yeah.
Okay?
And then it's really interesting when you can look down at opposition details, because that opposition is actually me opposing the registration of that brand after my registration of my business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
And that actually raised a really good point on the next step. Is like what initially a trademark examiner will do is they'll look on the register and they will see if it's a competitive name. Or it's those rules, is it geographic? Is it distinctive? Is it a business term or phrase? A lot of entrepreneurs try and register, like business, common business terms. I had someone, for example, try to register Circular Marketing Australia. It was seen that this is a name, circular marketing or the circular economy was a reference or name that all people in the industry should be able to use, and therefore they rejected it. It also raises the next point of these 3 stages towards success. The second stage is actually where the oppositions can be raised. Okay, so you don't just get the name because it's distinctive. You also, in Australia, your trademark is published in the Australian Journal of Trademarks, and it's published there for 2 months. And in that time, anyone in Australia or even internationally have the ability to raise an objection, okay, with the trademarks office. And that's, Rosalind, what you did.
Yeah, the lesson I learned in that, Gareth, if you want to look up Aqua Cove, Mamina, you can just see the difference. I've actually just realised that the lawyers haven't registered my logo with my trademark, which I thought was on there. AQUA-COVE, Aqua Cove, COVE, all one word, no C.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's not there. Oh, yeah.
No, yeah.
It's okay. So what they've done there, what you've done is put a K there, is it? Yeah.
Take the C out, Mamina.
Okay.
AQUA.
Yeah.
COVE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the lesson in that is check what's been registered after you registered it, because my logo isn't there, even though it's all the other details are there. And my registration, as you'll see, was in 2014, and that other business didn't register their brand until 2015. So interesting, different spelling, same objection, same meeting.
Well, interesting that objection too, because first of all, like what you've done here, you combine 2 elements. This is a great way to get around any of these difficulties, initial difficulties of trademarks. So you take 2 disparate words and you put them together to create a new identity. But just so you know, and why it did get objected to, if I've understood the chain of events there correctly, is that you can't just change one letter and then expect that to go through. The trademark examiners will often pick that up and they'll service what's called an adverse report.
Yeah,
now,
because it was in the same brand category, both in swimwear, that it could be confusing. So, but the registration that I learned in this process, and I'll let you move on, is that your trademarks it's only as good as the money that you're prepared to throw at protecting it. So, at that time, I couldn't afford to keep pushing this because they then objected to my objection, other lawyers. Yeah. And so you've got to pick your battles, I think, at the end of the day, that you can push it so far.
Well, this is why we're in this session here, because if you follow these rules early, it is worthy of your investment because it creates an asset of your business.
Correct, you're right.
The preparation is key. If you are spending thousands, if not millions in a business that really flies, then you need that trademark as an asset. So it is worthy of your protection, and it's worthy following these steps so that therefore you don't only through Social Star or BYOB have a brand of distinction, but you actually have an asset. And that's why we're taking this journey today. And so it is right to
Sorry,
go
Gareth,
ahead,
just the point, because Gareth and I had some brand infringements that we had to protect, and luckily I had Gareth to be able to send me some letters instead of paying another company $1,000 to write a stock letter. So there's some smart strategies to help with that if you know the right person, basically, and Gareth's in the community. I just wanted to highlight Carol's got a question, Gareth. Just go to her.
Yeah, sure. Jump in, Carol.
Yeah, sorry, you might have already answered this, but so if you're a completely different category than somebody who has, say, a name registered, are you able to register that? Or
in the same
no?
Category? No.
If you are not in the same category,
it's possible. Yeah, it is possible. So again, it's worth doing the due diligence here to see if there's classes or associated classes. You know, for example, so coaching, I know, for example, is a class. It's class 41 actually. So again, in your searches, you want to make sure there's something, also a tool through this called the pick list, and basically you can search what classes would be available to you. Okay, I'm going to give you an example of this in another example that Andy just raised about a business that was operating again for over almost actually since before I was born, which was 48 years ago, and it's called Scribe. It's actually Andy's cousin works for them. And actually, I'd like if you could just now do one final search under the name of Scribe. Great name, an Australian publishing house that actually operates right around the corner from Social Star. And basically, Scribe in the Word version, if you look down, there's a word, a logo, and it's in red lettering. It's actually 80, so just going to wait for it to come up. But keep scrolling down just to find it. But Scribe is basically a publishing house, and they actually got in. No, not Marketing Systems. It's just Scribe. But basically, they're registered in a couple of different categories. That's the red one there. Okay, so this is Andy's cousin works for Scribe, and earlier this year, Andy actually put me together with Chris, his cousin, because they had actually had an objection on this name. If you pull up the actual entry, as a publishing house, the owner of this business is Henry Rosenblum. Now, Henry has been publishing independently for a very long period of time. However, only recently registered the trademark. There was initially an objection. However, and just so you know, he's registered in the classes, ebooks, books, and book publishing. There's several other scribes that are basically on that register, as you've seen. But we received an objection, or Chris, who works for Henry, received an objection. Andy called me up, basically said, can you help a cousin here to get over this hurdle? And yeah, we did for a nominal price. Basically came up and wrote the adverse reports. What I had to do was go in and bat for Scribe and actually prove since 1976, the year of the dragon, in which he had started the business, he'd been in business, and he was then able to prove what's called prior use. And so even if you've started this down the track, there's still a possibility for you to prove prior use. That's what we did. And he was just recently, Andy, I haven't had a chance to tell the guys this yet, but we've got a registered trademark for them. And so that goes back to the date of registration. So look, in short, it serves to be prepared, not scared. Here, that's why we're on this class today, to actually understand the fundamentals of trademark protection, but also these, I hope, tips will give you a few indications of what makes a brand that is capable of distinction. Is there anyone else on the call that would like to test out as you search for your trademark gold? And so I can give you some other practical tips or advice on how you can best prepare your trademark. Have we got another one in the chat there? Or if anyone would like to sing out. Was it Matt? Matt had a question there, I think. Let's see the chat.
Yeah, you can use my one if you want.
Okay, so let's, actually now I've got it. Right, okay, cool. Right. A quantum health coaching and aspect will be interesting. Okay, Aspect Music Academy. Let's give that one a try. Aspect, unique name on its own, like Aqua, probably wouldn't be capable, but because it's a music academy, this is a really good example of what is possible. It's capable. The good news from that is that there's nothing that has been registered at this point. So that's good news from that, because he can kind of begin to think about building this brand. But some other things that he might like to do is actually do some searches as well on just the word aspect. Because what we want to make sure is that there aren't any competing. You can see there's 238 results. And he is in that area of, it's in music. So Sam, like Virgin Records was the first trademark of Branson. And we know, I think it's going to be 8 or 9. So as you can see there, let's just click on that one there. Matt will need to look actually in a similar way that Carol does into class 41. The reason I say it's education and training. So what we want to look at here is if there's any examples of class 41. And you can just scroll through and probably quickly. There you go. There is one there, but that one is, yeah, there's one. Have a look at that. And is that Apple?
Aspect.
Okay, right. It is Apple. Thank you for that. I clearly need new glasses. Okay, so class 41 is providing training. So he most likely would need to be aware of this, right, in the registration process. The reason being is that even though he's got Music Academy, it's possible that Aspect, this business, who's a software company, has got in there first. Okay. But what Matt can do is he can work with people like Andy and the other talented brand specialists on the call to actually create a mark of distinction. And he can do that through some of the other tips that I mentioned on the call today. He can come up with a great logo. He can consider a tagline, connecting the world with music, for example, or empowering the world with music, or music make the world go round. All these things could be possibly added to Matt's brand, Music Academy, with a tagline. Matt's Music Academy, music makes the world go round. Those combination of things would be sufficient to overcome these, any potential objections down the track. And it just shows you or reveals to you that it's worth doing that planning. It's worth working with your brand strategist and working with an IT guy who can give you the friendly tips on how to best position your brand for success. And what I mean by that is ensuring that it becomes a valuable asset of the business. Okay. And so we'll jump back into the slides now, because there's no better person to talk on these experiences than Andy himself, who's gone through it. So let's just have a look as Andy, just so you know, I'm using you as a case study. As you have followed best practice in your journey of building 3 successful brands, at the very least. Asking about the mobile beer app too, by the way. That's another story. Next one, next slide here is basically, I've done an analysis of it's a little IP audit that I've done on Andy's business here. And it shows you that he's got not 1, but 3 brands. And each one of these brands I've consulted with him to ensure his success. And it also covers much more of that. Once you've got the trademark, there's so much more you can do with it. You can turn it into a book, you can turn it into products. And that's what Andy does, in business and education. And that's through licensing agreements and copyright. But let's stay with trademarks and branding for today. And let's actually have a bit of a chat. Andy, so we began, the journey of protecting Social Star way back when, 15 years ago, where you were looking to create a brand of distinction. And I know that this one element of this, became quite contentious. Do you want to describe some of the story of Social Star's registered trademark?
Yeah, so, and I've had lots of other, as Gareth alluded to, I've started lots of other brands that haven't persisted, and we didn't do trademarking on those because they were ideas, and I've created a beer app, and I did a tequila straw business and a few others. But Social Star I knew was going to be sort of a long-term proposition. So when we received investment, which we did at the start of the company, I used some of that to do the trademarking just straight away, off the bat. And so Gareth and I did that, and lucky because there was another marketing agency in Queensland called Star Social, same colour, used a star, and they were passing themselves off as, I guess, very similar to what we were. Now, whether it was intentional or unintentional, it could have been misleading if someone had looked at them and gone, oh, that's us. And so therefore, that was, we just came across them. That was one example. Now, another example, which is probably, and we didn't bother much pursuing that because they were in Brisbane, I was in Melbourne, they were one person operator. It wasn't much to fight, However, another situation came up where one of my employees, who I trained up to be a coach, he was working my business for a year or so, and then I just was doing some research, and I came across, when I was looking up my ABN number, that he had actually registered Social Star with my top tagline, so Social Star Personal Brand Management, as a ABN under his name. And I was like, oh, oops, that's not so good. And I wasn't very happy about that. So I contacted Gareth. I'm like, hey, what are we going to do about this?
Well, yeah, exactly. That star had been replicated in someone else's trademark. It's an interesting question of what made distinction too, wasn't it?
Yeah. Now, luckily, in this case, I mean, the reason why he didn't persist with me is that he had a different way of doing things, but also he wasn't very good at business development as part of his role. And so it turns out he never got any clients, and he went and got a job. So it didn't matter. But I did contact him about that, knowing my rights and having a backup of a lawyer if needed. And I did mention that in my email conversation with him. And he backtracked as quick as you like. So just knowing that you've got, hired goons is very important. So that's a joke.
Well, it's also, having the trademark also gives you that power, right? Like under the Trademarks Act, it's serving a cease and desist. That's often how you prevent copycats. And by the way, copycats are a compliment. In the 20 years that I've done business, the successful dragons of the world, business brand builders, to have copycats in your community means that you're doing something right. So having the trademark just means you're empowered under Section 121 to actually defend it. And in 9 times out of 10, it's my experience that a cease and desist does exactly that. The threat of litigation, cease and desist is actually the tool we use to actually enforce your brand. But what this discussion today is it's really about growth, and that's the reason that we, as idea makers and creators, we build businesses to create ideas and to bring them into reality. And the reality is that it starts with a trademark and protecting your brand. I'm going to show you where you can go with that. And here's another successful friend of ours and brand builder in this next slide here, who's actually built a global business out of not even his trademark, but a range of his other things. So here's a quick example of the IP that is in Travis Bell. He's a speaker, coach, consultant, and a powerhouse when it comes to, taking his brand to the world stage. And in fact, he was so successful on stages and doing TEDx Melbourne and talks that Trav was actually asked by this gentleman at the bottom of the screen, Brad Sugars, who's one of the most successful business coaches in Australia, who's franchised his idea, Action Business Coach, and lives in Las Vegas. He made an offer to Brad to actually buy his business, to license his business, okay? And they went third shares in it. And Brad was, Trav basically said, oh my goodness, I haven't got any of my assets protected. So we did some work together. His whole brand is called The Bucket List Guy. You can see him on social media. He's very prevalent. But he also got his own other copyright. He's got his bucket list blueprint, and he's got his methodology. And these things combined, he was then able to enter a contract, a joint venture agreement with Brad Sugars, and they have taken his IP, his trademark, his methodology to the world and effectively licensed it. In fact, franchised it. And it's one of the most powerful IP systems. And I'm sharing this with you today because it's just the top of the tree. Let's move along as we wrap up today to actually understand the combination of these things and how powerful they can be in their business. We'll just jump to the right for the end slides will be of the ship. And in an age of AI, just go to the picture of the ship. The reason I have also, we're collaborating, Social Star, BYOB and myself, is that in an age of AI, where brands can be built overnight, it serves for you to protect that brand if you're going to go the long way. And while we don't have enough time to talk contracts or talk even, into depth, I want to touch on the combination of elements with the picture of the ship right at the end, which actually will put it together for you, how intellectual property protects your business, just at the very end. Yeah. Just as then we'll have time for a few more questions. And in this combination of elements, this is how best to understand IP and indeed trademarks. And the reason that we're even doing this is to protect a powerful trademark. The intellectual property in your business is effectively the assets on your boat. Your trademark is the flag. Your ideas, your books, your blood, sweat, and tears of the products that you offer, and your time, your services is your copyright. And if you're in the inventive space, if you're building apps like Andy has, or if you're in the design space and you're creating even technology, they can be registered as patents or designs. And all these combination of things have to be secured on your vessel. Your trademark is the flag on your ship. So doing these and taking these notes today, and even deciding to do some other work with us, is about investing in the protection of your ideas. It's an area I'm really passionate about. I love supporting ideas, makers, creators, and dare I even say history shakers, as the reason that we do this business is to follow our purpose. So just on a short and really positive note, as we move towards the end here, it serves you to protect your most visible asset is your ideas, because in an age of AI, the wind in your sails is going to move business like never before. And at the end of the day and the start of it, we need to protect our most visible asset, which is our trademark. So I'm going to end it on that note there. And that will leave some time for a couple of quick questions. And I think also a giveaway, I haven't written a book on this area, but what I'd like to do is keep it nice and light for today. I'm looking forward to spending some time with you in a format that Andy and I are sort of still to discuss in a workshop format. But also, I'm really happy to spend 30 minutes to do some of this due diligence early with you. And we'll talk about what that offer is. I think I've got a calendar link somewhere there. But more importantly, let's have a chat and let's just agree to support each other in the growth of our ideas. Okay, back to you all. All good,
right.
Rosalind. Thanks
Now,
for the comments, and all good. Let's protect our brands.
Yeah. Now, I've just got a comment, Gareth. Sorry, hands up from Mel. So, Mel B.
Hey, yes, thank you. I appreciate you sharing your time. I guess some of us might be thinking along the lines of, so what are the financial risks? If I look at, if I'm in breach with Mel B, one of the Spice Girls, because I spell my name differently, if she ever comes after me, what, not specifically, but as an example, and or there's different classes and different jurisdictions, what kind of ballpark price range what investment are we looking at versus the risks?
Okay, right. Well, first of all, Mel B, that's a really good one, a very spicy one. Spice Girls, Mel B. There's a famous case, actually, Katy Perry and Katy Perry clothing, which is probably why I also brought this up. And in that case, a trademark was being challenged. And in this day and age, personal brands can be really powerful too, and that's what we saw. We saw a Katy Perry, a music brand, go against Katy Perry design. Now, I know there'd be some concerns there, Mel, but the easy answer to this question, even if you're using Mel B, is to do what we did in the case of Matt. Matt, we said, he's got a brand, it's a music academy, there's quite a few other aspects out there. But what I would encourage you to do is put Mel B and think, sorry, is it a design business? Or, sorry, Just refresh me your business, Mel.
Coaching.
Coaching. So Mel B, coaching is the next obvious step, but come up with something that's evocative, that tells a story, that combines, I think the distinctive way that you deliver your products and services into something that is more than just Mel B coaching. Mel B, and this is where you work with people like Andy and brand specialists to basically come up with that unique combination of elements. And a really great way to do that is to actually think of the story of your brand and then come up with something that's really distinct that will tell the story of your business. That's what makes great trademarks. And in your case, Mel, you just need to think about it a little bit deeper, unpack it a little bit more, and come back with that distinctive name. It is worthy of your registration. You're going to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on marketing. Now, the price that Andy and I have worked under for over 15 years is only around $2,000. I haven't increased my price on that. And this is not a sales call. The reason I'm saying it is it's just worthy of your protection to go through these processes, the consultation part, particularly before you register the trademark, so you get the trademark. The reason I say that if you're on the call to build a business and you want it to go global, like Trav is or Andy is, then you need to have it registered. Full stop.
So my sort of rule of thumb, Mel, and it's, look, I'm not the lawyer, but as a business person, I say if you've made 100 grand in your business, then spend 2% of that on registering the trademark. If you have only made 5 grand, then you don't know if it's going to work yet, right? So it's when you get to that certain point. We raised 250 grand to start the business, so that's a small price to pay at the start. Whereas some of the other startups I didn't register because we never got past critical mass, and so it wasn't worthy of doing that. So it is a bit case dependent, depending on the business you go into. I've got another BYOB member, Simon, who's creating a digital platform, but he spent 6 years building it. So he hasn't made 100 grand revenue, but he's probably spent more than 100 grand in expenses. So therefore, that's worthy of doing it, because before he goes out to market, he wants to make sure it's sort of scale and timing, and also market, pressures in terms of what's the risk and likelihood of someone's going to copy it. But look, I do have to call it off there just because I've got to go teach the BYOB program in 1 minute. I know that we want to get into depth. The workshop, which we'll send some information about, is so you can each get your individual assessments done, not just in your trademark, but in terms of contracts. Because not only do you need, that's one part of it, but contracts for there's a range, so many contracts that you need, but advice around those things is super critical. And we'll put when we do the email about the next steps, we'll include all the things that we can cover in that. And it's a lot more time, and you get the idea is you have a one-on-one after that to then go, great, give me some more value. So I'm going to sign off. Gareth, do you want to do your...
Yeah, all good. Final words is that, there's so much more. It's the tip of the ship, so to speak, because trademarks is just a place that Andy and I often begin, protecting your brand. There's many other ways you can protect your brand, and ideas, might I add, because at the end of the day, that's what business is fueled by, whether you're offering services or product. And when you then get to contracts, the map is endless. You can sell your idea, license your idea, build strategic alliances, creating spin-offs. So we're going to dive into that in the channels that BYOB supply. And at the end of the day, keep flying your flag. Do the work now, and just ensure that you have that flag of distinction, so people can recognize you, and you recognize that you have something of value. So thanks very much for having me, and look forward to reconnecting again soon.
Thanks everyone for attending. Thanks, Gareth. That was very good. Nice little...
We'll be sending some one-on-one 30-minute chat with Gareth, so you can book for more information.
We'll send
I'll leave it in your hands how you guys are going to arrange that. And at the end of the day, looking forward to the next steps.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you.
Thanks, team. Bye for now.